Well, Lady Glenconner, lovely to see you, and amid this hall of books as well, which is of course telling your story of how, for those who don't know, you grew up with the royals.
Absolutely.
You were Maid of Honour to the Queen at her coronation.
Yes.
Lady-in-waiting to Princess
Yes.
Margaret. With your late husband, you also made the Caribbean island of Mystique a bit of a playground for the rich and famous. You felt love, you felt loss, you felt tragedy. Do you think 300 pages is enough to tell that story?
Well, I've got a lot more. I think I may have to write another book. But anyway, this will do for now.
Why is it you decided that now is the right time to write a book? Because I hear it involves Helen Bonham Carter, actually.
Well, it did. Helen I've known, and she was a cousin, actually, of my husband. And her father was very helpful when my third boy was in a coma. Anyway, she rang me up and said, I'm playing Princess Margaret in The Crown. Can I come and see you? I'd like to know more about, what Princess Margaret liked and how she smoked and everything like that. Anyway, Helena came with her notebook, spent 3 hours with me, and I felt sometimes that Princess Margaret was in the room with us.
Already?
Already, yeah. And and she was brilliant, really brilliant. And then somebody, a publisher, I've always told stories, true stories, and he said, have you ever thought of writing a book? And I thought, well, I'll have a go. I'm 87, so I better start now. And anyway, that's the result.
Arguably, you knew Princess Margaret as well as anyone, and that comes across in the book. And you saw things from the royal family that most people don't get to see.
Well, yes, from a very early age. My father, who was the 5th Earl of Leicester, and before he became that, he was a query to the Duke of York before the Duke became king. He's with him very interestingly, doing the abdication. And so as a result, Princess Elizabeth and Princess Margaret Rose used to come over to Holkham. And I suppose I was about 3 and Princess Margaret was 4 and a half. And I have a lovely photograph of us all standing. And I showed it to Princess Margaret. I said, it's very strange, why are you looking at my feet? And she said, well, you had silver shoes. I had brown ones. The Queen's looking as if Princess Margaret was up to no good. But we used to have such fun. Princess Margaret and I, on our tricycles, we used to whiz round the passages. The Queen occasionally saying, what are you doing?
And presumably as you grew up together as well, that fun, still having fun, but in different environments.
Yes, I mean, of course the war stopped. We didn't see them in the war. Although we were awfully pleased, all the children were sent away from this coast, the Norfolk coast, because Hitler was meant to land here. He had all these flat-bottom boats waiting in Holland and
in your book, you were worried he was going to come to Holkham, weren't you?
Well, we didn't. Well, carrying on about that time, we had great plans, aged 5 and 7, to kill him. We made what we called Hitler's mess, which was this terrible jar of nasty things we kept under our bed. And we had heard that all the top brass, Nazi brass, had each allocated a stately home. That's why the stately homes weren't bombed. Hitler, I thought was going to Windsor, but I believe he had his eye on Blenheim. And Goering or Himmler were going to come to Holkham. So we thought, well, Hitler's bound to visit, and we'll be there. And because we were very blonde and blue-eyed, just the sort of type Hitler liked, we were determined to make him fall in love with us. And they must have said, we've got this delicious drink for you. We never got past... If we had killed her, that was it.
So you were going to poison Hitler at Holkham?
We were going to poison Hitler at Holkham for Britain, for Great Britain.
It's very noble.
Now, I know.
I want to talk to you about Coronation Day. I'm sure you've spoken about this moment in your life time and time and time again. The day in 1953, Maid of Honour for the Queen. Do you still remember it clearly? Oh,
yes. I mean, I remember that more clearly than anything else that's ever happened to me. I was in America at the time, and my mother selling pottery. I'm a great salesman. That's what I used to do, travelling salesman. Anyway, my mother sent me a telegram saying, come home, you've been chosen to be a Maid of Honour, which is thrilling. I mean, it was the most wonderful thing. There were 6 of us, and on the whole, our parents were friendly with with Princess Elizabeth, who was then Queen. And we had to be the right size, we had to be unmarried, we had to be daughters of earls, marquises or dukes. Anyway, we arrived back, and it was a whirl. We were sort of turned into the sort of, I always say, the Spice Girls, because in those days they didn't
Which
have
Spice
girl
Girl
band.
were you?
Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure about that. We didn't quite get as far as that. But that was the idea, you know, that we were followed, we were photographed, and what was so wonderful was my mother had just been made a lady-in-waiting to the Queen, so that she's walking just behind me in the procession. And in my book, the thing was that we were so beautifully trained and we were so busy doing the things that we'd been told to do that we didn't actually notice some of the other things that were going on around us. And that's what I researched for my book, and I think I'm very proud of the chapter that I've written on the coronation. And quite a lot of people who, very my age, have written and said, oh, how interesting, we never knew that happened. Or
well, you get a perspective that people don't see, as I say, from the royal family. I think you talk about some of the royals washing up in marigolds.
Well, Princess Margaret, yes. I mean, she used to come and stay with me in my little house in North Norfolk. It's too small to have a maid. Anyway, she arrived in our marigold gloves and said...
Princess Margaret?
Absolutely. She said, I'm going to do all your fires for you because I've been a girl guide and you haven't. And what about your car? And I said, well, yes. Do you want to wash my car? Yes, I'll wash your car. I mean, it was slightly sort of Marie Antoinette world, but she really enjoyed doing these things. She even liked dusting and that sort of thing. And she loved walking around on the beach, on the marshes, and, you know, we had a lovely time. We were great, great friends.
The book obviously also touches on things that tend to follow the royals around, the press, for one, controversy in some places. Do you draw any comparisons from your experiences to the modern royals?
Yes, I mean, I think again in my book, my second son got AIDS in the 80s when nobody knew how it was caught, and it was terrifying, and he was one of the first people of the aristocracy actually to die of AIDS, and the press were pretty awful, you know, and I knew then how difficult it must be. And funnily enough, the first time I went with Princess Margaret to Australia, her marriage had just started to go wrong, and the Australian press weren't nearly as polite as the English press, and they used to shout at, you know, hey Margaret, Maggie, or, you know, where's Tony, and you know, have you left him behind? And it was quite worrying, and the headlines weren't actually very nice. And so I said to her private secretary, I've got an idea. We travelled by train in Australia. Why did we ask all the press for a drink? And Princess Margaret, who could all the press for men actually, and Princess Margaret was great with men. She knew how to charm them, and it worked like a dream. We had this cocktail party. She came and, you know, talked to them all. They absolutely loved her, and we had no trouble after that at all. It really worked. And
that's Australia. You've lived in some incredible places. Just talk to me about Mystique, because that was a place that you really transformed, as I said, and, you know, people like Mick Jagger, David Bowie wanted to live there.
I know. Well, when I first went there, I was horrified. I said to Colin, you must be mad. Nobody's going to want to come here. And he said, mark my words, Anne, I'm going to make it a household name, which he certainly has. Now, when we first got there, you could hardly get on the island. The scrub, there were wild cows, huge mosquitoes. It wasn't called Mystique for nothing. And no water, no electric light. And we were there 12 years, we grew cotton. And then slowly people came on our yachts, and one or two said, could we buy a piece of land? We'd love to have a house here. And then of course, Princess Margaret came on our honeymoon. We were frightful excitement when the Britannia was nearly as big as the island, anchored off. And anyway, Princess Margaret asked us, you know, whether we'd like to come and have dinner. And I sent a message back saying, well, ma'am, I'm not quite sure whether you would like us. We haven't had a bath for 3 months. And we don't exactly smell wonderful. And so she sent a message back saying, oh, don't worry at all. You know, come and have a bath on the yacht, which we did. It was lovely. And then we gave her a piece of land.
And how does the experiences that you've lived in your life, being in this idyllic Caribbean island, compared to being back now in Norfolk? Is this your real home?
Yes, of course. I being a cook, I was born here, brought up here, and I just love it. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, actually. I mean, the Caribbean is very nice for a holiday. I do go out to Mystique every year for 2 weeks, but I'm always very glad to be back in Norfolk.
And some nice memories of Holkham Hall, I suppose, and growing up.
Well, wonderful memories. I mean, we were so lucky. And I've written actually about the coastline and Holkham, because in the war, there were the prisoner of war camp. First of all, we had the Italians there, who were lovely. None of them wanted to run away. You know, they were smiling and beaming. And in fact, my mother, after the war, when people didn't want to come back and work in big houses like Holkham, my mother had, I think, about 12 Italian. They were the sisters of some of the prisoners of war. And then when they left, the Germans came, who were rather different kettle of fish. And my sister and I had ponies. We used to sort of ride round the camps, you know, but we kept quite far away when the Germans arrived.
You've lived an incredible life. Do you feel like you've got anything left that you want to do? What's the next chapter of the book?
Oh, I got lots left. I mean, I'm 87. I've never had such a wonderful time. I'm really having a great time now. Very happy. And yes, I might easily write another book.
Well, best of luck with that, Lady Glenconner. Thank you so much for your time.
Not a bit. Thank you.